right. Welcome to Soulful Living. I'm Phillip Mountrose with Jane Mountrose, our special guest, Melissa Donovan, A Tale of Two Realities. This is the Soulful Living Show presented by IHP, the International Association of Holistic Practitioners, and our nonprofit organization, Awakenings Institute, devoted to making the world a more loving place. Please share the show with other people. This is a tip, a strategy you can use starting today. How to choose this world, the blue and the red pill, which world to live in. We'll explain what that means and how to choose a reality that I think you'll really like. Jane?
Yeah, can you just talk for another minute here? I'm trying
Yeah,
to get
so there was a
onto.
little glitch here getting the show started in case you started it, a few minutes ago. We put the show up and anyways, this is an interesting distinction, a way of understanding of how to be in a more soulful reality. The show is about soulful living. And what does that mean? What is the world like when you're in that place, even though you may be, the person next to you may be living in the same world, the same earthly world. The way they perceive the
Right.
world may be very different from how they're experiencing things.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, this is where personal and spiritual development really get exciting, and really what soulful living is all about when we realize that we live in a reality of our own making. We think things are so fixed and that kind of this is the way it is, and actually it's not. So we have the tale of two realities. It's a distinction that we've made. We have some different elements to it, and also a process that we have done that illustrates these these two distinctions, perspectives. The first one is being in the mud, where many people are in their lives, and being in the mud is characterized by living out of fear, a sense of being separate and alone, um, lack, uh, competition. Like you really have to fight for things because otherwise you might miss out and somebody might get what's yours, which isn't actually true either. And really a lot of misery and not as much joy as we'd like. So from there, the opportunity is to go to a lofty mountaintop. And what we discovered was that if you imagine something, an expansive place in your mind, or if you go to an expansive place too, which is a wonderful thing to do, like if you go to the beach, like Melissa lives near the ocean in Florida, if you go to the beach and you're looking out over an expanse of water and you can see for miles, it expands your mind and you tend to have a more kind of resourceful perspective. So we imagine going to this lofty mountaintop, which is characterized by having a panoramic 360-degree view of the world and everything around you. It's just so beautiful from that perspective when you're looking down over it and seeing just the peacefulness and the grace of the earth. And from the mountaintop perspective, it's characterized by love, a sense of connectedness and unity, that kind of unity that you get in nature, abundance, joy, bliss, all those good things, gratitude, harmony. And it is a place where you're actually in your mind and in your whole in spirit. Actually, you're in a more resourceful place where you can access your own guidance, um, where you can be resourceful in making decisions in your life that may be challenging you or seem impossible, and where you can just be at peace with who you are and what's happening.
And poet William Wordsworth said, "Our birth is but a sleep and a forgetting, but we come here in trails of glory." And we forget that we are all connected. We're unified. And interestingly enough, on quote, the other side beyond the veil, we know that. But we come to this earthly plane and we experience a lot of separation and challenge and division, um, to learn things, to grow, and to heal and to unite, to find different ways to connect. And as we connect, we grow again. And that's part of going to that mountaintop, to see that bigger picture, how, when we're in the mud, everything is divisive and separated, but from the mountaintop, we see everything is connected and unified.
Hmm. Right, right. And there's a tendency from the mud, the mud being in the mud perspective, to view ourselves as victims of forces that are greater than ourselves, so that we actually don't have much potential, when actually in reality we're creators of our lives and of our opportunities, and we come actually with a plan when we come into a life. And when we go to the mountaintop, we can get much more of a sense of what is actually possible, and even a sense also, I think, and we're going to go into this, I think, a bit with Melissa, that we don't know everything that's possible, that there's so many possibilities out there that actually they exceed our ability to grasp them. So part of what we need to do is is to relax and be more open to what might occur in kind of a more miraculous way.
Right. So we had a couple other dilemmas or aspects of this tale of two realities. So we talked about things being very physical and measurable, and that's sort of an illusion that everything has to be. Science is a very useful tool, of course, but in the current world, we kind of think if it can't be measured, if it can't be seen, if it's not physically trackable, it doesn't exist, or it's just a myth or a fantasy or dismissive. But from the bigger view, from the mountaintop, we do see things are connected, and we sense them, intuit them. And so much of life is beyond the physical, beyond measurable, beyond viewable, whether it's even on the physical level, spectrums of light. We can't see the ultraviolet, infrared rays now. They're dark universe. Most of the vast billions of universes, galaxies, cannot be seen, cannot be detected, that are existing in this moment. And that's the physical world. So if that's the physical world, what is it, the non-physical world, the even greater world than that,
Mm-hmm.
that we are a part of?
Right. Right. It's interesting. Part of, I think, reality, you could say, in the mud or on planet Earth, kind of in the third dimension, is that success is really largely an outward process of doing what it takes, and just kind of plugging, forging your way through, which partly it is. We do have to be consistent and stay with our focus. But the essence actually of it, really, of achieving what we want and being on track with the reason we're here with our life plan on a higher level, is connecting with what really feels right to us, which we sense in our hearts. And love and connectedness, all of that, is those are more meaningful, I think, than we realize. The idea of following your heart really is heart and soul, following the calling of your soul. And it begins, and some people would say, who understand more about how things happen, that as much as 85 or 90% of creating is an internal process. And then, of course, we do need to follow through and take action steps for things to happen for us. Uh, but it isn't just a matter of trudging through the mud until something happens that takes you out of it. Because if you're in the mud, you're also going to be drawing more things that are like that to you. And what you want to do is get on the mountaintop where miracles can happen, and create more of that. So I think, to me, just that as a metaphor, that mud to mountaintop is very meaningful. I know Melissa is one of our students, and we thank you for being here. I know you've experienced the process. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh, yeah. The first thing coming to mind is this saying that my dad always used to say growing up, which was garbage in, garbage out. And I think he was primarily referring to it as like TV shows my siblings and I would used to watch as kids. But it just reminds me so much the importance of what we take in, like who we surround ourselves with, what we watch, what we listen to, what we consume. And if we're in the mud, if we're just taking in all this negativity, it's really disconnecting us from that higher self, that part of us that wants more for us. And when we are connected to that side of ourselves, we take in more of what's meant for us. And I've really noticed that shift myself, learning this process and realizing the two realities like we're talking about today. It really is like two totally different realities. So I love
Mhm.
this conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that then also you can start to gauge if you say, well, gee, am I in a place where I'm coming more from fear or more from love? Am I think that one of the distinction actually I started to make that was easiest for me is, do I feel more separate and kind of alone, or do I feel like connected? Like there's no separation between me and anything else, which is actually the truth energetically. And that's even been proved scientifically now that all of these things that are we consider to be separate are really connected. And if I can then focus on being in a state of connectedness, whether it's by rising, imagining that rising to the mountaintop, or if there is some other way that I have for making that shift, then it can change everything. And I think
Mhm.
what I found is the more you do it, the better it gets and the easier it gets until you're just living more naturally on the mountaintop than you are in the mud. And that's a great goal, because if you consider reality, it's your own making. Kind of life is a game and you make up the rules. Do you want to be in the mud or do you want to be on the mountaintop?
Right. So we covered some of the tales of two realities, that things are very physical in the illusion of the one reality, whereas things are really metaphysical and connected on another deeper reality.
Hmm.
And also that uh, things are seemingly separate here on Earth, but they're not really much more connected. We're in these polarities and battles all the time, it seems, but we're actually much more. They've done studies where people are much more similar than they're different. Even men and women, are much more similar than they are different. There's distinctions, but the distinctions are very actually minor. So there's a lot that holds us together. Obviously, distinctions sort of are noticeable, so we do pinpoint them, and that's interesting too. But it can lead to a sort of false sense of separateness and division that's not really there. Rather than more learning, it's more
Hmm.
separation. So there's the connection. We're unified in our diversity, as it's sometimes said. And a third tale of two reality is this, and we've mentioned it, is this sort of outward trappings of success, where the things, especially as we're younger, that we want to strive for, which are fine, comfort, material wealth, recognition, status, those are all good things. There's nothing Jane and I, we have strived for them, and we like them too, but they are kind of part of life instead of an ends. They're sort of a means to an ends, or they're sort of put into the big picture and the flow of things. So when you start to see what they're leading to, why do you want to have money? Well, I want to be comfortable. That's good. Why do you want to be comfortable? Well, I want to do what I want to do. Well, what do you want to do? Well, that gets into maybe a bigger picture. Maybe you want to help people. Maybe you want to develop yourself as an artist, or as a researcher, or as a performer, or as a teacher or something. So all those things are taking you in a direction, then more into your life plan, into that higher reality, rather than just sort of outward success by itself, stopping there.
Hmm. Right. Yeah. And another thing related to that, if things aren't going the way we think they should, which of course that's from our limited perspective also, because we don't know really the way they should be going. um, we also tend to then make a lot of excuses for ourselves. Like, well, this is just the way I am. We hear that so many times with the different clients we work with and such, that, well, this is just the way I am, and this is the way life is. But it isn't necessarily true. I think another aspect of it that we see when we start to connect from that higher level really is that we have greatness within us that we're not aware of. All of us do, and we're all special in a unique way. We're all here for a reason. So we don't have to make excuses for ourselves. We just have to connect more to be in the flow of life where it is guiding us to go, which then of course involves having guidance. um, and which you can also achieve in this way, and or we have other ways of doing it, of really connecting deeply with the truth in your heart. I think that is, for me, that was probably one of the hugest shifts that I ever experienced in my life, when I finally felt that I could connect with guidance and understand more about who I am and why I'm here, and what this is all about, just from that sense of knowing that the truth lies within, rather than that I have to look to someone outside of myself to tell me what's right for me, which the times that I've done that, they haven't been very satisfying. And I think if you can understand the truth is within, wow, what a blessing.
Right. Yeah. And that you kind of get lost on the outside in the myriad of images and choices and things you can do externally, which is interesting, and we can learn from, but we can also kind of get lost in that world of external world. And if we get too much lost into it, we lose our sense of self and who we are and why we're here, our inner compass, our inner soulful guidance. And that leads to another part of the tale of two realities, besides the getting lost in the physical world and the trappings of success, and being separate. And that is settling for, we call it sometimes the set point, where we think that we can only go so far, because we're used to something, we think that's as far as we can go. We think, this is, the success I've had, or this is what my family's done.
Right.
This really is impossible for me. I don't know anyone who's doing this. I've tried it before, it fails. And I keep boomeranging back to this set point, which is somewhat of a homeostasis and comfortable. There are happiness set points, wealth set points, weight set points, physical set points, a lot of different ways. So it's where you sort of operate your comfort zone, and that is useful to a degree, but you need to kind of look at that to make sure your comfort zone is more taking you where you want to go. My comfort zone is where I would like to live the most every day. I mean, that would be a good comfort zone, I think, from a soulful tale of two realities, don't you think, Jane?
I'm not sure I quite understood what you said. My comfort zone is where
Well, I think it would be a good comfort zone.
What would be a good comfort zone? I
A
guess
good
I'm kind of
comfort
lost.
zone would be to say, I'm living today. My comfort zone is where I feel comfortable striving for my best every day. That would be comfortable for me. I don't know if that's the right words. So we often think of it like I just settle back into a kind of a lazy, do it the least amount possible. But if you look at your set point as, how much can I experience? How much can I understand? How much can I live today? Even if it's just sort of laying back and having a quiet day of reflection, that, you get through the day and you look at the day and say, I actually experienced quite a bit from a soulful level. Like, this was a very good day.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's my comfort zone of accomplishing from a soulful place, being as much as I can, living my potential every day.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's a great goal.
Yeah, that would be the tale of two realities.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jane, anything else before we kind of do a mud to mountaintop with Melissa and kind of show people how this works?
Well, I think the main thing that we wanted to do today was to be able to demonstrate this distinction so that
Mhm.
people can use it. Because soulful living, the whole thing with this show is that it's intended to provide strategies that people can use, but if you're watching or listening, that you can use it right away. And actually then we're going to do a little demonstration today, and then Philip will be doing it on Enlightened World Network too, coming up this week, aren't you?
Yeah, the Facebook Enlightened World Network this Friday
Mm-hmm.
At 8:30 a.m. You can check
This
that out
coming
on the
Friday.
Enlightened World Network Facebook page
Yeah, wonderful.
on March 12th.
Okay, so for now, and Melissa was kind enough to volunteer to talk with us about something that from just her kind of daily life perspective has been a challenge to her recently. So Melissa, would you like to tell us a little bit about it? And then I'll just do a guided visualization. We'll go to the mountaintop and see how you feel about it there.
Sure. Yeah. So I very much resonate with the goal of sharing this message, the tale of two realities. And I recently in my business started doing virtual meditation groups to help other people tap into that soulful state, experience the expansiveness, that joy. And I'm really enjoying them, getting good feedback. But
Good.
the irony is that as they're coming to an end, I'm kind of stuck in the mud overthinking what next. So we were talking before about getting caught up in the physical world, just the competition, and I kind of feel like that's where I'm at, thinking about, should I continue the groups? Do I want to do something else? I'm just not really sure of my next steps.
Mm-hmm. And I think this is when you move into a more creative perspective on life. Usually, what you're talking about is very common, because you move out of kind of a conventional, like if you have a 9 to 5 job, everything might be laid out for you, and the thing you do next is what they ask you to do next. Whereas if you're starting to take control of your life, then it's like, now what? Because we don't know. We're going actually out into the wilderness, and it is challenging. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm sure a lot of people who are like-minded are in a similar place, and I certainly have been there enough myself too. So you ready to go to the mountaintop and see what insights you get when you're there?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So you can close your eyes, and everybody who is watching and listening can close your eyes too, if you're in a place where you can do that, not driving, etc. And it's just wonderful, because what we're wanting to do is shift our focus to going within, where the truth lies. And one of the fastest ways to begin is just by focusing on your breath. So you're shifting your focus from your mind to your body, and just breathing in and out. And in this case, we're going to start with imagining this visualization for Melissa of having this dilemma of, now what do I do next, and feeling like she's kind of in the mud with that. Can you see yourself there in the mud, Melissa?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And what do you notice there?
It just feels chaotic, like a
Mm-hmm.
lot going on physically, like bright lights, loud noises, just very unpleasant.
Mm-hmm. Anything else?
Um, just this image of me sitting behind my computer, which is also funny because that is where I lead the groups, but in this image it almost feels caged in, like not very free.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, would you like to shift to another reality?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. And so the way to do that is just to start imagining that you can breathe in lighter air now, with every breath, and you can just send it all through your body, allowing all of your cells to feel lighter. and if there's any tension anywhere, that it can release with that lightness. So that as you continue to breathe, you start to feel so light that you can begin to rise out of that mire, that mud, or at your computer, wherever it is, and allow any of that mud as you rise up very gently and gracefully and beautifully and safely as you rise up, that you any mud can drip off back down into the mud puddle, so you can be nice and clear with the intention. And of course it is about intention of going to that beautiful lofty mountaintop with that panoramic 360-degree view, or whatever feels right to you. So Melissa, just imagine rising there now and let me know what you notice when you get there.
I'm noticing it just feels a lot lighter. We were saying lighter. I definitely feel that in my heart, just able to breathe deeper. And the image is a lot more calm, just like nice clouds in the sky, a beautiful day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Is the sun shining?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How does that feel, that sunlight?
Really nice. Really
Mm-hmm.
peaceful.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. And if you look out from that vast perspective at the world around you, how is that?
It's beautiful. It's just this overwhelming sense of contentment that everything's okay. Feels really good.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, from this perspective, how do you feel about yourself?
Almost, it's like I'm shaking my finger at myself for not coming here sooner. But I feel good. I'm glad to be here.
Mm-hmm. So do you really need to in any way give yourself the the finger, or is it
Um,
just an opportunity?
yeah, I guess it's more in a loving way.
Just a joking way?
Yeah, just to remember that I can always come here whenever I want.
Mm-hmm. Right. And when you focus on yourself, then from that perspective, the more loving, calm perspective, how do you feel about what you're doing with the meditations you're doing and all of that?
I definitely feel like I'm living my purpose. I
Mm-hmm.
I feel so in flow when I'm leading them. Help, like hearing the women share their feedback who joined, just really warms my heart. So it feels good.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. And you mentioned that they're coming to an end. So from this perspective, how do you feel about that? Not knowing what's next.
I guess I'm just feeling like if it feels so good, why stop? Like they don't have to end. I can just continue to choose more dates, and that's feeling good, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. And I think what you said about feeling like you were on track with your purpose, I think that's a really important element, that when we know that we are on track, then we know that it's just a matter of continuing down the road and understanding where that's taking us. If we get to the mountaintop and sense we're off track, then we can see how to get back on. But track, how does that make you feel?
Yeah, I feel on track. I feel good. I feel like right now I'm not meant to stop them.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. And if you're helping people to connect with their own truth, I mean, what could be better than that?
Yeah.
To me. I mean, there are different ways of doing that, but gosh, what a blessing that is
Mhm.
for
Yeah.
them, and for you to be able to witness it.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. So any other insights from the mountaintop?
Just to trust that whatever is meant to come next, I'll know and I don't have to overthink it.
Mm-hmm.
And just for now to keep doing what feels good, which is leading these groups.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds beautiful to me, what
Yeah,
you're doing.
thank you.
Yeah. So I know it's easy when you're on the mountaintop to say that. How would you like to remind yourself in the future to you could maybe would you could remember being here, you could associate it with a color. Any thoughts on how you can how you can remind yourself if you're tempted to start doubting?
Yeah, I do like the color association. And when I came up here, just feeling the clouds and the sun, it was just a lot of light blue in the sky. So
Mhm.
I associate the light blue with this feeling.
Mhm. Right. Wonderful. So you can just imagine now sending that to your reality in your future, and you can live in that, which is really that place of connectedness, which if we can live in that place of connectedness, and it's a goal for all of us, it's a journey, but we want to do more and more of that, right? Yeah, and that's an easy color for people who are watching and listening. Is color is a very effective. You could say it's an anchor in NLP terms that you can just imagine surrounding yourself with a color that represents something to you, something specific to you, and that will bring back the state that you're intending when you set that up for yourself. And the more you do that, by the way, the stronger it gets. So for Melissa, what the thing that I would recommend then is in the near future to imagine that surrounding yourself with that blue color, even if you're not even if you're not feeling off track, and just remember being on the mountaintop and feeling like you're in the right place and on your purpose, all of the things you mentioned. Can you see yourself doing that and just easily returning to this place in your mind?
Definitely.
Wonderful. Yeah. And another thing I would just like to mention as a general kind of statement, uh, when Melissa was describing how beautiful the scene was, of course, all of everything about the imagery that we see in our minds is meaningful. And the sun in particular is a really important element because the sun represents your source. So just now, even Melissa, if you imagine, being there on the mountaintop and just inviting the sun to shine down and fill your body with its light. And we can all do that, all of us who are in this visualization together. You can also at any time ask that light above you, which is your source, to send down the perfect energy that you need now and fill your body with it, whether it's joy or contentment or peacefulness, whatever it is that you want. Or just ask it to send the energy that would be most useful for you. And imagine filling your body with it and then allowing it to radiate out all around you, filling your whole space that is your energy field with it. That's actually then what you're doing is you're bringing in a higher frequency of light into your whole system. How does that feel, Melissa?
Really good. When you said
Wonderful.
peaceful, that resonated. I feel peaceful.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. Wonderful. Any final insights before we come back?
I don't think so. I think I feel good.
Wonderful. So thank you. And as you just imagine coming back, it doesn't mean that you're leaving that mountaintop energy there. You can bring that color around you, that beautiful color, and you can be here with us in that state. You can be in your mountaintop state, wherever you are. So whenever you're ready, you can just breathe in more active energy, coming back to awareness of where you are. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes.
Thank you,
I
Jane.
feel good. The mountaintop, I think, feels good to most of us. And you're welcome.
Yeah, it's that contrast, the two realities. It really is like
Mm-hmm.
noticing how much I get caught up in, like Philip mentioned, the worldly successes, comparing myself to how other people are running their business or what kind of programs they're launching. And then I get this sense that I'm behind. But really, when I return to that soulful place, I feel right on track and that there's
Right.
nothing else I need to be doing right now.
Right. Right. And I think a lot of times just because of the way we are in our 3D reality, it's like, you know, I need to be doing this now, and I need to be doing more. And really, Philip and for us, I think looking back at the times when we really felt like we wanted things to be changing faster than they were, uh, we in the back of our minds knew that it was just us saying that there's a perfect timing for everything. And it is amazing if you can just be kind of in the flow with it and allow it to take you, because it will. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.
That was great, Melissa. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you
Yeah,
have a good
things
time
are,
on the mountaintop,
yeah,
Oh,
Philip?
things are very different on the mountaintop. Yeah, we're always on the mountaintop. We're always in the mud. We're sort of existing in these different realities where, depending on how we focus, our world is very different,
Right.
and the
Yeah.
life that unfolds is different.
Hmm. I was talking with a client this week, and we've been working with this idea and some other related ones for a few weeks now. And she said, I never knew that I had a choice.
Right,
And I think that's true for a lot of people.
right.
You don't know that you have a choice. I know a couple years ago, was more than a couple years ago, I guess probably by now, Philip and I went to the East Coast, and we were taking a tour. We were actually in Washington, D.C. We were taking a tour of Washington, D.C. And there was a woman there who was a doctor. And so I was talking with her about stress and about how changing for a person to change their perspective can really help them so much with stress. And she said, well, they don't believe that they can. Most people, she said, her patients, they don't believe that that's possible.
Hmm.
They will turn more likely to medication, to reduce stress, than to look for ways to feel better, or
Yeah, and that's from
go
the
to a,
mud.
a different place in their
Yeah, from the
minds.
mud, there seems to be no way out. You're lost. You're stuck. That's it.
Hmm.
From the
Well, and
mountain.
that's the way we're programmed. We're
Yeah,
programmed to think that we're not empowered, and we actually have much more power than we realize.
and from the mountaintop, even when we have challenges, when we have setbacks, we have problems, etc., which we do, it's very different, from seeing how this fits into the big picture, what we
Right.
can do, what the possibilities are.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and it is visualization is very powerful, and I think there are a couple things with this one. uh, I've mentioned that are especially powerful, mud to mountaintop. The first one in a visualization, if you imagine rising up, just imagining it in your mind tends to shift a person to a higher state of consciousness. And so we do that a lot with different processes that we do, is just imagine going up to a higher place. And then, of course, as I mentioned, when you get there, having that expansive view, also that has a similar effect of expanding your perspective, because of the view is so grand.
Hmm.
So those are things, just doing them, it's like it's almost like it's wired into us to go to a higher place when we do those two things. And of course, then if we connect with the feeling of love in our heart, we're wired to connect with that feeling of that heart and soul, that soulful feeling of uh, being in a more meaningful place than we generally realize.
Hmm. So we start to see the big picture. We start to see that we are connected. We start to see the outward success can be a lead into inward success. We see we have a lot of possibilities.
Right. Yeah.
going from the mud to the mountaintop. Jane, anything else before we close here?
Not from me. How about you, Melissa? Any final thoughts?
I just want to share a quote I heard recently that I loved, which was inner peace is the new success. So instead of striving
Wow.
for whatever's going on in the world, like just really keeping that feeling as the ultimate goal. And like we were talking about earlier, not thinking of it as some elusive thing that's far away, but just remembering that we really can access it whenever we want to. And so I love that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you.
Thanks, Melissa.
And thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
So remember, this is a key to soulful living, this tale of two reality, in this case being more on the mountaintop instead of in the mud. If you enjoyed the show, share it with friends, let people know about Soulful Living weekly here on Facebook Live. Simple strategies you can use daily, weekly. Our website is gettingthrough.org, gettingthru.org/holistic. And we value your support. Tuition for our courses, purchases help our mission in creating a more loving world. Melissa, how do people connect with you?
I'm typically on Instagram a lot of the time. So at by Melissa Donovan.
I'm Melissa Donovan. Okay. All right.
Wonderful.
Great. So thanks for being with us on this tale of two reality, being on the mountaintop with us. Hey, everyone, have a wonderful week. Share soulful living with people who you think might want to live soulfully, including yourself. Until next time, bye, everyone. Thanks.
Bye-bye.